Merry Christmas and welcome to the Relic Smith channel. Today we're talking about the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What are their symbolisms and meanings? These weren't just baby gifts. These were prophetic offerings with strong theology that very strongly hint that the Magi, or the wise men, knew who Jesus was. So why these gifts and not others? Why not weapons or clothing or jewelry or livestock? Well, it's because those gifts don't speak clearly enough. Anyone can bring wealth, but only the initiated would bring meaning. Okay, so first, gold represents authority, kingship, and permanence. Gold didn't just represent kingship because it was valuable. In the ancient Near East, gold is tribute metal. It's what you bring to the throne when you're recognizing a king. Gold represents something that's incorruptible. Gold is famous for chemically being noble. It resists corrosion, it resists rust and tarnish compared to most metals. And that physical reality is why gold becomes an excellent symbol for purity. It doesn't rot like other materials. Endurance, it outlasts for generations. And glory, it reflects light in a way ancient people associated with radiance and majesty. This symbolism is a big reason why gold saturates the tabernacle and temple imagery. Holy space is often represented by a gold space. I mean, just think about it. You have crowns of gold, thrones of gold. It's tied to this kingship, this authority. And then in the scriptures you hear of the heavens being paved with gold, or God sits on a golden throne. And just this color of gold is so strongly associated with both kingship and God's authority. In the Holy of Holies, it's covered in gold. The Ark of the Covenant is overlaid with gold. Gold equals God's dwelling place. And then gold is also an excellent conductor of electricity. Obviously, the Magi were not messing around with electricity, but gold isn't just shiny, it's a conduit metal. It carries power cleanly without breaking down. It's one of the best conductors for electricity. This child, Christ, is the true king. He isn't just crowned, he's the connection point between heaven's authority and earth's reality, like this electrical conduit for godliness. So what are the Magi saying when they present gold to the Christ child? They're saying they recognize him as a king, and also symbolically it could represent an incorruptible king. It could represent God's dwelling place, this conduit between God and earth. Now, frankincense often represents priesthood, prayer, and divine presence. If gold is what you give to a king, frankincense is what you give to a god. Now, when frankincense is harvested, it's extracted by cutting living trees, and the resin bleeds out slowly, and then is hardened, purified, and then burned. Frankincense is a resin from boswellia trees. Harvesters wound the bark, and the tree weeps resin that hardens into tear-like drops. As it burns, that creates the incense, the burning of this incense in the temple. And that burning, that smoke from the incense going up, represents symbolically the prayers going up to the Lord. The frankincense bleeds milky white sap that hardens into translucent pale amber tears. This is why frankincense become associated with purity, holiness, priesthood, and worship. So as I said, it has a daily use in the temple. It's the daily incense offering. It's a symbol of prayers rising to God, and only priests handled it. So frankincense is directly tied to sacred incense and worship space. So kings receive gold, but only gods receive frankincense. So what are the Magi saying? That this child is not only a king, he is the meeting place between heaven and earth. And then we come to myrrh. Represents suffering, healing, and sacrifice. So uses of myrrh, it can be used as a medicine and an antiseptic, healing wounds, embalming the dead, and ritual purification. Myrrh has a long history in traditional uses, not only as a fragrance and body care, but medicinal associations. And like frankincense, myrrh is also harvested by wounding the trees. but instead of these more translucent tears of sap, they're like a blood red resin. So when myrrh is harvested from the Camphora trees, the sap that seeps out is reddish to dark brown, often described in ancient sources as looking like blood tears. This visually alone is the reason why myrrh becomes symbolism for suffering, wounding, death, and burial. The tree must be cut or wounded for the resin to flow. So one gift bleeds white and represents worship and holiness. The other gift bleeds red, representing suffering and death and sacrifice. And both require the tree to be wounded. So what are the Magi saying? They're saying this king will suffer, and his suffering will heal. He is the great sacrifice. Now, real briefly, I want to talk about the value of these gifts. Obviously, gold is valuable because it has to be found, it has to be mined, and it requires not that much explanation of its value. Now, frankincense and myrrh, in ancient times, these were pretty pricey because of how far they had to come. Most often, the only places you could get frankincense and myrrh were on the southern parts of Arabia. So they had to travel long distance to get to Judea. And the harvesting process was very slow. These trees had to be wounded multiple times, and the sap slowly leaked out of them and then harvested after it hardened. And they're costly when it comes to political meanings. These gifts are not just expensive gifts, they're declarations. When someone's coming and giving gifts of gold like this, it's basically saying this person is being recognized as a king. And then the frankincense, now you're saying this person is not just any king, this is a god. And then the myrrh is a statement of suffering and sacrifice. These expensive gifts send a message that no one can ignore. So king, God, and sacrifice. Christ as king, Christ as the high priest, and Christ as the final offering. The Magi's gifts present the gospel through these materials. Also along with that is temple symbolism. Gold often representing the sacred space, incense representing priestly mediation, myrrh representing atonement and also an anointing. Back in ancient temples, sometimes they would use myrrh as an anointing oil. Jesus says, "Destroy this temple and I will raise it again." And John clarifies that he spoke of the temple of his body. So in a way, these gifts can also be symbolism for the declaration of Christ building a new temple, or Christ's body is this new temple. Since you see each one of these materials represented in a different segment of the tabernacle. So when you study the gifts like this, it makes it very, very plausible that these Magi, these wise men, had to have had access to some of Daniel's prophecies that describe the Messiah for them to give such well thought out and symbolic gifts. And in the last video, we discussed the possibility of a certain astronomical event taking place on December 25th, Christmas Day. Obviously, Christmas Day didn't exist over 2,000 years ago. But what if that event really was the event tied to when the wise men presenting these gifts to Jesus? If it is, we have one of the greatest parallels here. The wise men represent the outside world, recognizing Christ's birth and giving gifts. And Christmas Day, we give gifts, and it's the day that the whole world recognizes Christ's birth. So the Magi didn't bring these gifts accidentally. And once you understand why they brought these gifts, Christmas itself changes. It could then be, we don't give these gifts at Christmas because it feels good, but because a king has been acknowledged. Christ is the true king. Christ is Lord, and through Christ's sacrifice we are healed.